Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Antonio Celester. I am the owner and founder of the Academy of Black Fathers Association, which we are a fatherhood program nationwide, one of the first and only of this kind in the nation. That meaning that we work and serve only Black fathers in America. We'll get more into why that is and how we came about doing that. But I want to welcome you to our new website. A lot of interesting things going on. A lot of people ask the questions, so I figured I'd make a welcoming video to welcome those seekers who want to find out what we're all about. Who are we? What do we do? What we want to do, and what our mission and goals. So again, I want to first start off by my name is Antonio Celeste. They pretty much call me Antonio or Tony. I am a father of four. I have one son. He's 33, my daughter 36, and I have two younger daughters who are 14 and 15. So I'm just like other fathers. I come from just as much as a humble origin as everyone else, having had struggles with being a parent and raising black children, particularly when there's more than one mother. I'm also uh, have that history as well. So I don't come in as a high mighty roller. Some would think, and it would think that maybe it takes this scientific guy or some social worker, something like that, to deal with some of these issues for fathers. Yeah, the truth couldn't be so further. I also spent some time in prison. So these are all the disclosures that just to show you most of the fathers I work with have similar same backgrounds as myself. And having come from those humble origins gave me a better and clear understanding of their challenges, including as well being a father myself, and also coming from a single parent family like I have as well. I mean, my father was around, but we grew up in a single parent family, and most single parent parents are more than 60%, but I was close to more than 70% single parent family, African American female homes, being led by black woman, female, and so it's a um, it's a lifestyle that not is conducive to positivity for a number of reasons. We'll get into that, but I just want to give a little background about myself so you can understand where I'm coming from and how we got to where we are today. I founded this program in 1994 as a result of some challenges I ran into, and ironically, um, it wasn't actually my specific challenge, but when my challenge brought me in the arena, um, I saw other people less fortunate than myself, and this is really what started the program. And I'll just give a little bit of detail of that as I had an incident with well, my son's mother had an incident with the Department of Social Services, and those are the people who basically protect children from harm. And she was up into drugs and stuff like that, and she got caught up in the Department of Social Services came in, took the children, and like they always do, they try to contact all of the fathers. That one of the fathers being me, and we had to go into court. And it was one of the most strangest things I ever had to do because I didn't have custody of my children, but I was certainly around and I was certainly supporting them. I wasn't I was never had told to do that, but it was just something that was natural to me. So when I came into the circumstance and I appeared in court, it was like, oh, I couldn't believe how many young black men was in this courtroom fighting for their children, and they don't give you an attorney. So if you don't know the lingo, you don't know your rights or anything like that, you pretty much lost that case, and you sometimes you lose the parental rights over your children, which means that they was asking these young fathers to surrender their parental rights because they weren't supportive. Some had criminal backgrounds, some had been in jail, some had even been in prison, and they said, "Well, you basically not a good father, and therefore your child is in need of services, and since you can't provide them, not that they gave an opportunity to, since you can't provide for them, you need to surrender your parental rights so they can be cared for, or we'll take you to court," which they were then court, and hold a trial. Now, I really didn't even know that you actually have a trial. It's not a criminal trial. It's sort of like a civil trial in family court, where they actually bring up all the dirt, make you look like a fool, say you're no good, and then they take your parental rights by their law. We're in Massachusetts, so Massachusetts law, but I found that it's the same in courts around the country. I later discovered. So the big surprise was the number of black men I seen in there during that time, and we're talking 19. I'm gonna say somewhere around. I started in '94, so I'm gonna say it was somewhere early '90s, maybe '91, maybe '91, '92. This particular thing was going on. Historically, if you look back, not only were they taking black children and putting them in foster homes because other family members did not want to take on additional responsibilities. Some of them couldn't even deal with the responsibility they had. And what happened is grandmothers started stepping in because they didn't want to see their child in foster care, and grandmothers weren't able to take care of little children. I mean, some of these children was under 5 years old. It means you had to give them full attention, play with them, change them, bathe them, and so on. And grandmothers, they're past that stage. Their children are raised already. So it was the dilemma, and most of the guys, some of the young guys didn't know their rights, so they lost outright. And I watched this, and it appalled me. And I asked questions because I'm wondering, what are they doing to these young guys? Because while they never said that to me, because I pretty much was astute on law, but not particularly this law, but I knew the difference between you taking my children and making up some stuff, because they had nothing to take, they had nothing to make up on me. In fact, my son's mother, which is my son's grandmother, stepped in and was like, "You got the wrong man. This man has been," and because she had other children too, and I also took care of them as well. No, which what a man is supposed to do if you're going to be with that person. Well, she had those children after our relationship, but there's another story. But when she did have them here, you can't. I didn't step back and say like, "Gee, those are not my kids. Let them go down." No, I'm not. I don't do that. We don't even promote that in this program, and that's for later. So to make a long story short, I interviewed with these guys that are crying their tears out, and it's like they took the children, they was going to take the children away, it was going to, and they was telling me everything that the Department of Social Service, aka in the court, was relaying to them. They had no clue what their rights were. And it was ironic also that the mothers had attorney and so did their children. So the standard review in court is, what is the best interest of the child? What's in the best interest of the child? And that was the kicker for the downfall for most of those fathers, because at those times they weren't in the best infant. They were the best interest of the child because of some of the things that they were being alleged about them: the lack of job, the lack of responsibility, in and out of prison, in and out of jail, these type of things. So they took that, compiled, put it in a ball together, and made them feel bad, and made them just feel like they weren't good enough for their children. They cried their eyes up and signed the parental rights over. And it also threatened them, say, like, if you don't sign them over, we'll just take them anyway. So we'll get you, and then basically embarrass you and tell everybody your business in there, and there'll be mudslinging back and forth, and they didn't want to go through that. That in itself is harsh, especially when you're dealing with children that you love. So, making a long story short, at the beginning, I took an interest to this. By the way, I didn't have that same problem they did. My problem was this getting responsibility from for my children from the court. I could not believe, because it was a child in the wedlock, which out of wedlock, which means that the mother and father were not married. We were not married, so that means the child is out of wedlock. You have some parental rights, but also they also best interest the child. And in my case, the best interest of the child was me, but they would not give the children to me. They would not give my son to me. They would the child. They wouldn't give the child to me. They just at that time they was not friendly about handing responsibility of children to guys, whether you was black, white, purple, or whatever. Well, I can't say if you was white, because there was a lot of white guys who had custody of children, but they also had money for attorneys. So we're talking about dealing with guys who had little or no money, didn't have an attorney, and didn't know the law, so they had no fighting game. So anyway, that was my whole type issue. But during the time I was there doing that, every time I went to court, I ran into these young brothers and some brothers who just didn't care. For the most part, they cared. They just surrendered because they felt helpless. It was feeling helpless, and they just gave up. Particularly when they bring up the criminal stuff, the prison stuff. You almost can't argue with that. I had been in prison at that time, not during the times, and it's back and forth sometime. But the only difference between that I had an advantage was that I always worked and I always took care of my children. And that was the only thing they could have said. They obviously can't deny custody of your children just because of that. That I did know. So what I did was, after that event, mind you, I didn't even get custody of my child. And when they gave custody of him, he was going on 15, maybe 16. Now we were back and forth for 5 years, back and forth. They thought I was going to give up. And when they did give me custody, they gave me joint custody with his grandmother. My child, joint custody with his grandmother. So I accepted that, but I did something that I never thought I'd do. So right after that, and the case was over, and I got into trying to find a way to help some of these fathers and started the program. Simultaneously, I started getting outside views from other people randomly. I did a random study just before I started the program. So let's say around 93, I did a random study in which I walked up to people in my community, a black community, and I asked a random question, and I would ask them, just tell me what's on your mind without thinking. Just randomly tell me. Say what's on your mind when I say these words. And I calmly ask them to participate, non-scientific, mind you, and I would walk up and say, Father. Some people would look up and say, for the females, majority of the females, they said, miss my father, love my father. If they didn't know the father, they would still say they miss him and want to meet him. They'll say, I don't know him, but I love him and I want to meet him. Or he wasn't around. I don't know who the father is, but I love him, and so on and so forth. And it was overwhelmingly that, from what I was hearing, 90% of the black females, all ages, randomly, 90% of them said that they missed their father, wanted to meet their father and be around their father. In comparison, when black men answered, it was a total surprise. I was shocked. They called them drunk. They called them stupid. They called them asshole. And even if the father was there in the home, they'll say lazy. They'll say all this negative stuff. I think out of maybe the more than 150 black men I asked, more than 130 had something negative to say. And that was astonishing. It was so shocking that I noted it down, and I did a radio program about it. Then I did a TV program about it. And then people started calling me about it and inviting me on their radio show, the internet radio show, to talk about this thing that I found about black men out there. And believe me, it's been consistent ever since I started the program. When I do assessments and stuff like that, it's been pretty much consistent that black men have a bad view of their fathers, but it's almost like they were blaming their fathers for the condition or the stuff and challenges they face. It was like, it's your fault that I went to prison. It's your fault that I had to go through this with a kid. It's your fault. It's like a blame game. I don't necessarily agree with the blame game. There's probably some, my experience, there's probably some blame to go around. But when you're trying to solve problems or try to change the negative consequences of a situation, the blame game has to stop. And so rather than take that blame game and highlight it, I took that blame game and I helped develop a program that helped black men not only get past the blame game, but how to restructure and change the mindset of black parenting from a black man and black children or their children. And when I did that, I called it this, I made it part of my program. I did the whole program. I wrote all the program lessons. And what I did was I took my own life experience, like the experience of those around me, some of the talks I had with people. I took some factual stuff, I did research. I've talked with facilitators. I mean, a lot of this was a lot of the program had to deal with what others gave me, including I talked to black women. Some of the things that they see that black men and some of the things that we lack or we've lost, I should say, we lack it because we lost it. We lack it because we haven't exercised it. We lack it because we just was ignorant about it, or we lacked it because we just didn't care. Um, but most of the part, most important part was taking all that information and coming up with a program which I call self-actualization. And what it does is it's the basic foundation of the academy, because we call it academy because it's a training program. You know, I come from a family of police officers. My father was a homicide detective, very, very big in our own community, and he has a twin brother who also was the deputy of that same police in our community. And they all went to the academy to be a police officer. I think it's almost up to 6 months. When you go to the military, there's the basic training that you go through for whatever. And they train you and equip you with the information and the tools to be successful out in the field. Well, babies don't come with tools and equipment or knowledge and understanding to help you be successful with them. Children do not come with that. So where do we get it from? We usually get it from our parents. Our parents usually we raise our children the way our parents raised us. But what if the parents we had didn't have the knowledge or the understanding to raise us properly? Or they lacked that understanding, or in their time, they did things differently, which is a lot of the case now. Our parents raised us differently than what the parents, or say my children, raise their children. They don't, my children have a little bit a hint, my son and my daughter, raising their children the way I raised them, but they have a total outlook and they have a total different reason for doing things that they do, which I understand. This is the reason why I say we have to move into what we call contemporary parenting, because we can't do what our grandmothers say, raised our mothers and fathers the way they did. We got our behinds whooped, and you can't do that no more. So how else do we have to find new ways to discipline our children without going to jail, because they're sending people to jail when you hit your children these days. Children are calling the cops on their mothers and fathers when they discipline the way our grandparents discipline our parents. So the self-actualizations are basically 7 core concepts that we use in this program. And we'll get back to the core concepts. And what, like I said, it's the basic foundation of the academy. And we treat it as an academy. We treat the academy as that place and that space where we give you the basic tools, updated, new and improved, best practices for Black men in today's parenting world. We don't give you, we tell you about, we tell you about the parenting styles that our grandmothers and grandfathers have, and we give the reasons why we can't use those styles today. Some people already know that reason. Some of them have been to jail or got the cops called them and locked up for using those styles. If my grandparents was alive today and did what they did back then, say to my grandchildren, shoot, they would be doing a lot of time, and they wouldn't know what they talking about. I've been raising kids like this for young years. They will go in there and argue the court down about that. And a lot of courts know this, but they have to follow the law, which we understand. So we have to make those adjustments. So these core concepts in the academy is what the basics of the foundation are. 7 core concepts, which I'll get in another video. I'm just introducing you to the academy, who I am as the founder, and what we do. So now let's get to the part that what we do. I founded in 1994. Again, I wrote those core concepts and the lesson plans and stuff like that, including the instructor manuals, in order to teach instructors how to teach the program. And so what we do is our operations, we change. I've looked at probably hundreds of father programs, both funded by the government through Father Initiative, which even before then, the programs that they had were mostly nonprofits. And I'm going to tell you the difference why nonprofits failed. More than one reason, but the main reason why they failed is they're nonprofits. So one of the reasons with nonprofits, you have to raise your father programs. We're talking about father programs. You have to raise your money through donations, charities, and stuff like that. If you're a 501c3, which is an IRS designation of a nonprofit organization. But the problem was nobody was invested in fathers who trying to learn how to take care of children, if you will. Nobody dug in their pocket and said, "Oh, gee, I feel sorry." They did more. They got more donations for raising stray dogs and taking stray cats off the street. People will be more to give their money to that than to Father Hope program that helps fathers, whether they're Black or whatever, white. But particularly if it's a Black organization that's raising father, or if that person is one of the fundraisers, they're not going in their wallet for that. They're really not. And so a lot of programs fail. They struggle to get money. They changed their mission. They did a lot of things, but and then when they did get money, they were controlled by whoever was the money was for. They'll say, "Okay, we'll give you that, but you have to focus on not necessarily father training, but you might have to focus on doing something with the children or something like that," which is fine. But we're trying to change the negative consequences of fathers so children can reach their highest potential. And what I did was I actually pretended to be a father looking for services. This is how I knew just how limited the services was and what was being offered. I would call and say, "Yes, I'm a father. I'm looking for services and this and that." A lot of the programs at that time did not have, there was no father programs per se. There was a lot of programs for mothers, but not for fathers. So just before my case had just before my case had came to fruition, if you will, I had threatened to sue the state of Massachusetts for discriminating against fathers. They had all these programs for mothers to get back together, get housing, so on, get access assistance, but they had none for fathers. So, which means that even if the court did, and like which in my case they did, but with joint custody, even though if they did was going to give fathers their parental rights, you didn't have nobody helping you. You're still on your own. You're still on your own. I never accessed services, even though I was joint custody. I never accessed service because they didn't have services for fathers then. So again, for me to find that out, and I wanted to start a program, I called places, and pretty much there was nothing available. The ones that was available were non-existent. They had closed or some other stuff. So this is what sparked me, not just the only thing, but one of the things that sparked me to start that is there was nothing out there for father, particularly black men. The ones I saw crying in the hallways of courtrooms with no legal assistance, no support at all. They just wanted someone there to talk with them and support them, help them make those big decisions. We're talking, some of these guys were 16, 17 years old. They're babies themselves. And that touched my heart. And I said, this is not right. It's not right. So I started the program so that I can advocate for those fathers, particularly ones who was in those situations, and also try to change the tactics that they were using at the time to take black children and put them in foster homes. When they weren't able to go to the family homes, they put them in foster home, which was mostly white families. Like, again, a lot of black families weren't adopting or taking foster kids because they was already burdened with the kids that they have. It seemed. So it seemed. Nobody didn't want to take on more black children. So it was like one of those things they had put them in white families. And I remember when I first started, I got a call from a lady who lived in Boston, and she says to me, I'm calling to ask you, what do I do if I have black children? She said, I'm white. These are my kids, my daughter's kids. I took custody of them. How do I teach them about themselves? That's a fair question. That's a fair question. I wonder why none of the other people who had black children called and asked that question to anyone. So I thanked her for calling me for that question. And I said, the best thing you can do right now is let them hang with their peers. She said, how do you do that? Well, you sign them up for the local boys club in their community, Boys and Girls Club. That's probably the quickest way. And also, you make sure they go to school in their community. That way, they'll be around their own peers. Because you send them out somewhere where they don't have their own peers, they kind of lose their identity. Like some people say, they start acting white. I don't know what that means, but they lose their identity, and then they kind of get disconnected from their family. So I thanked them for calling me. I have many calls on different stuff, but that was one of the most memorable. And we started our program. We didn't have no financial support. I used my own funds. I actually quit my professional chef job to start the program because I procrastinated, and I was doing catering, and catering is a tough job, and you don't know when you're going to go home. So in order for me to get my dream done, I had to leave, and it was the most scariest thing I'd done, because how am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to feed myself? And those were challenges for me. But what was more pressing is that watching black men being shot by each other on the news every other night, being shot by the police, being denigrated, being locked up, incarcerated. Every time I saw some of those events, it hurt my heart that I had this program in my head and on my table that I just wasn't working. And then I started feeling personally responsible for some of the stuff because if my program's in place, maybe that could change that mind of that person with the trigger. Maybe it would change the mind of the person who abusing their children or neglecting their children. Maybe that, I mean, and all these stories right on TV, the ones that are known, but there's probably hundreds of more that weren't known that's not reported, and that's scary. And I couldn't sleep because I felt like God gave me this mission, and I was not taking it, the mission. I was denying the mission, or I was dragging my feet and waiting for my time. And I said to myself, I have to do it because if it's a calling for me, um, and God gave me that calling, I had to drop everything and do it. And that's what I did. And guess what? I had a roof over my head still. I ate. I don't know how, but I did. Looking back, I did. It seemed like nothing had changed. It was just more of my fear that was keeping me and preventing me. But once I got started, oh boy, did I get started. I um I did an appearance at the Massachusetts Children's Fund, which is the place that if you have a program, you have to go in order to get funding if you want to fund it for your program. And this is when the Father Initiative started, because what they was doing is it was Clinton and one of the Bushes, W. Bush, George W. Bush, they started the policy that if states didn't enforce their um their enforcement of child support, they'll lose federal funding. But at the same time, the states had to act compassionately towards fathers, and so they started this father initiative. Say, well, okay, you can go to this program, and we won't lock you up for not paying child support, not knowing that they weren't they wasn't deadbeat dads. They were dead broke dads. They were unemployed, unemployable. They had a lot of Corey background, meaning they had felony records that disqualified them from employment at this time, during this time. And also, a lot of them were unskilled. So you can't call them dead beat, they're dead broke. And they had children. Some of them had multiple children, multiple people. And people started using that, the blame game. When I tell you, when you're trying to change something, you can't go into the blame game. And so while instead of finding solutions, people was blaming, well, they should have put a rubber on, they should have did this. But the children are here right now. We're arguing about what they should have done. It's not something that we prevent. They're already here. So we need to find a way to help them with the children that are already here. And hopefully through that help, they'll get help for any future children or possible future children. Okay. And that was my stance. My other philosophy was, in order for black men to get back to the responsibility, they had to be working with other black men, other fathers. These programs are here, especially the ones that were sponsored in the Child Initiative. They, it was all those was political. When something is political, the gain is not for anybody; it's for political reasons. In this case, the political reason was states will continue to get money on other programs if they institute this particular program, Father Initiative, um, which the ones I've been to, 80 and 90% of them were Black Americans in there. And we give this program and we hold them accountable, if you will, because they got tired of putting them in jail, in prisons for not paying child support. Hold them accountable, but look compassionate at the same time. Here's the problem. The same black men and people who went in there came out the same way. Nothing changed. There was some increase in child support, but let me just tell you, financial for black families, financial support is not the only important support, particularly for our black men. They need things that are a lot more, in my opinion, than the financial support, such as moral support, social support, and moral support, social support, and of course, child support. I mean, the financial part, but moral support, social support, and I'm missing one. My brain is wrecked right now. But I feel like that. Okay, here's an example. Um, let's say a father pays his child support. Okay, and that's what he does. He pays his child support, so he's cool with the courts. But he don't spend no time with his children. So once he pays child support, he's done. He don't have to do nothing else because that's his only threat. His only threat is the court locking him up or whatever. So he takes care of that, and he's still not a hell of a father at all. He don't spend time with his children. He don't know his school teachers. He's not involved in education. He's not involved in the development and so forth and so on. Okay, we call those paper dads because they just father on paper. They pay child support. That's it. Stay out of trouble. And the paper dads are the ones who we say that either they have no relationship with their children. They recognize and acknowledge them through legal proceedings, but they have no relationship. When a father doesn't have a relationship with his children, you lessen their ability to reach their highest potential. It's been proven over and over. It doesn't make a difference what your color is. When your mother and father is engaged in your life, that's when that child can reach their highest potential. So walking away does a disservice to that child and does not help them develop. So you wonder why some of our black men grow up violent, grow up with issues, grow up with the inability to understand himself or see himself positively because that father or father figure is not there to provide that part. Mothers do a good job on doing mother's part when they're available. Most of the time, mothers are available. And then sometimes mothers are available, but they don't have the quality skills necessary, and they definitely don't have the skills to do both ends. Father and mother have to put it together. They have to find a way to break down that wall of miscommunication and do it in the best interest of the child. Because that's what it's all about. Parenting is about the best interest of the child. And if you knew the consequences of you not being there to lend your child anything other than financial support, 9 times out of 10, you'll probably take a second look and try to regain a relationship with your children. Sometimes the mother prevents that from happening for other reasons, but everything can be worked out in time. Everything can be worked out because mothers have to also know that when they do that, they're doing a disservice to their child and might be destroying their life. Okay. Um, I'm still trying to think of that other, but we'll move on. I will think of it. I have so much on my mind. More for social support and I got it. So the children, other than financial support, they need moral support, which we said. We said social support, which we said. The most really important is emotional support. Emotional support is is so important for black children. That emotional support. in in our program, we highlight those more because when you our philosophy is when you have those three in place, final support comes automatically. Most of the time, when fathers not paying financial support, is either they are able to, and when they are able to, um, not engaging, they don't have no connection with that child for whatever reason. It doesn't make a difference. They could be in prison. They could be far away in the state. It could just be a love child. It could be, but it doesn't make a difference. They still deserve the emotional, social, and moral support from their father, in addition to the mother. So, um, calling these programs and discovering this stuff um, gave me two clear pictures. One, that in order for black fathers to be successful in parenting, we had to do it ourselves, with ourselves. And two, that we have to stick and get back to the legacy of black parenting. Now, a lot of people be like, whoa, what are you talking about? Yes, we do have a legacy of parenting, and that legacy's been lost, just like a lot of other things that in our history has been lost. But it's been lost forever. We just got to get back to it. Imagine when I put all this together and I presented the first time, I got a lot of flack saying that my program was racist because I only deal with black men. But I said I'm only qualified to work with black men. I can't work with Italians. I can't work with Asians. I can't work with Latinos. I'm not Latino. I'm not a Latino father. I know nothing about Latino culture. I don't know nothing about Italian culture, so why would I, how could I be qualified to work with those? Like, I wouldn't have no problem if Italian guys got together and took the Italian boys and got them into being Italian men, because that's what they're going to grow up to be. They're not going to grow up to be African Americans. They're not going to grow up to be like Latinos. They're going to grow up in their own culture with their own legacy. And every culture has a legacy, and so do we. So, getting back to that legacy is the most important thing. So in doing that, in our program, that's what we do. We get back to the legacy of black parenting and what I call parenting in the hood, which is contemporary parenting. Um, so that's what our program is basically about. We want to get to our fathers. We work with incarcerated fathers because they are fathers and some of them are coming home. We work with the ones who are coming home, but we certainly can work with just about anyone. But we want fathers who are coming home or being involved with their children's lives. There are fathers in prison who are not coming home again. Um, we work with young fathers. One of the first things I did when I was in prison, I started a young fathers program, and what we did was we had a board of directors, which was experienced fathers. Young fathers would come in, and we'll have that meeting once a week at prison. And one of the things that I did one day, I was assistant chairman at that time, and I gave everybody some homework one day. And I said, call your children up and ask them, are you a good father? And if you are a good father, why are you a good father? And I did it with my son too. Not that I didn't get the chance to ask my daughter, but that was another story that I had with her a different time. I mostly let the mother deal with her, but I still had to be a father to her as well. So I asked my son, and this is my son who pretty much lost touch with his mother during the stuff through the court stuff and all that. He kind of understood what was going on. He wasn't a dummy. He understood what was going on. And and I said, son, I want to ask you a question. I'm on a board of directors of our Young Fathers program. We help fathers and ask everybody to ask their children whether they're a good father and why. And I'm going to ask you that same question. Am I a good father and why? And it almost made me cry when he told me, because it just kind of confirmed everything that I was talking about in the basis of my program later on. When the people came back that next week with their answers, fathers was like, "Oh yeah, my son said I was a good father. Nobody reported that the son said he was a bad father. I'm pretty sure there was a few, but nobody reported that. But he said I was a good father because I took him out to the sneaker place and bought him some sneakers, some Jordans or something like that, and this and that, and we had fun that day. Oh, I was a good father because when Christmas came, he bought me a PlayStation or whatever, whatever. And so they asked me, "What did your son say?" Like I knew that was coming. And when I heard them, I really got kind of nervous because my answer was totally different, but it was powerful. And I said, well, my son told me I was a good father. And he told me the reason why I was a good father is because I was there. And the whole room got silent. I mean, you could hear a mouse pee on cotton. And that impacted me in a way that being there means a lot, even if you don't have no money in your pocket. And that part has shaped what my 7 core concepts do. Part of it is building on yourself. A lot of it is building on self. But once you build on self, it's about being able to do things when you have little or no money. Because the legacy of our parenting was not based on money. It wasn't based on like I'm not saying we didn't spend money. I'm saying that we didn't have we didn't have someone saying, "Hey, give me your money out of your pocket so we can take care of the children, this and that," because the children were taken care of. So that money pot wasn't an issue. The issue that we have is the other 3 pots: the emotional, moral, and social. We're gonna get more into those three supports later, but this is the introduction to the program. Okay. And I can tell you why those are important. We will tell you why either in this video or another video on the website, so you can look out for that. I'm trying to give you a history of the program. And so once the program got started, I did radio programs talking about Black fatherhood, some of the stuff that I discovered. I then started a TV program called Father Forum, BNN TV Neighborhood Network, which means that the network went in the neighborhood, in my community where I lived at, and it came on every Thursday. I appeared on other people's neighborhood network about parenting issues, and on the Black fathering issue. We basically had topics talking about the father struggles, stuff like that. People, we had call-ins. When people come in and call and ask questions, they'll ask questions about the program. They'll ask questions about stuff that their sons going through, maybe, or their brothers. I have sisters calling for their brothers. I have people calling me from all over the country, California, issues. They found the program some kind of way, and they would call me and ask me, "Can I help? Can you help my brother? He's having a problem. Like the girlfriend won't let him see the child, and they got him in court, and he does his child support." And so I basically give them the best advice that I have um, to assist them and help them get through that. I had a few calls from fathers, but it seems like fathers are more willing to let things ride until it gets acute, and then but if I talk to them directly on some other level that didn't come up that way, like they didn't call me to ask me about anything in the beginning. They didn't call me at all. I would have meetings, and they would show up at the meeting. So I would invite them. We had support groups. We do support group meetings, where fathers come in once a week, and we sit down, and no more than 15 people, and it's facilitated either by myself or someone else, and we discuss some of the issues, and we give feedback to each other. It's very, very important that fathers have a way to event their issues in a place where everyone else is similarly situated. So they know I've been to prison. That's my disclosure, so they can come to me and they talk to me about that stuff. They talk about trying to come home from prison and take the father role back and that type of thing. And so those with those meetings, we do those meetings as well. Um, we went on to mentoring. We do some parenting mentoring. Um, One of the things that happened with us is in 2009, 2010, we actually had got a contract with Massachusetts, one of the first in the nation who ever got this kind of contract. Okay. Nobody has ever had a all black fatherhood program dedicated to black men, fathers, as a network provider for the Department of Social Services in Massachusetts, and that was us. They were convinced that our philosophy and our approach was very, very important. Even they called me and said, please don't give up. We love this model. And because it was very, very challenging dealing with the state and trying to cross the eyes. They wanted like everything. They wouldn't even want DNA. No, just kidding. But it's pretty much it was new to them and they was willing to take the chance. But then guess what happened? The economy crashed in 2010 and all the money was gone. They was closing programs down. And so again, timing is everything. And we're back now. We have a updated model. We updated the models, which is we have a website now. We have something new that we didn't have back in, and that new is our online access. We're going to have Academy online where we can reach fathers wherever there's internet. This is the new. We also have some mother interactions. We have support groups for mothers as well, fathers, young fathers, which that's fathers under the age of 24. And we also have parent hotline that we're going to institute as well, which is going to be online as well as by phone. And the hotline is going to consist of a place where mothers or fathers can call in, talk about some of the issues that are happening in real time. That doesn't necessarily require them to call the police. Because most of the time when there's issues, they end up calling the police and that just makes the situation even worse. Particularly black men, they don't want the police called on them. The black women don't want the police. Nobody wants the police called on them because the police can make things a lot more confusing, a lot more challenging, but they have no other choice. Who else are they going to call? Everything else is, it's not available, closed, whatever. And so what this does is to give them the opportunity to have a place where they can call, get some advice, some feedback on a current situation that's in real time. It's important because sometimes mothers or fathers they regret calling the police because they come in and change the whole thing around. Someone can end up in jail for no reason. Could be something. He won't make his bed when I tell him to make his bed. Then he gets uppity or whatever, and then they feel threatened to call the police, and this is all over a bed not being made, okay, or some other kind of small thing. And there could be some more serious things too, like neglect of children. Um, they again, they want someone to talk to, and no one's going to call to the police and say, I have no food for my children, and the police are going to take out a 51A and have the children taken and say you're unable to take care of them. Again, these are just some other avenues that we think was going to help promote and reduce harm if we promote it and educate and make more people more aware that it exists. So that's the goal of that. Okay. So we have a lot of good things in this program, a lot of challenges, but we're here to face them. We already know what the challenges was when we started. We started in 1994. Believe me, we saw everything. We saw it all. A lot of places, cities, counties, afraid to step up and say that they want such a program, because then they feel like they're being special treated, to certain African American men being special treated some kind of way or this and that. But we're taxpayers too. We're not all not working. We contribute a lot to the economy, and we deserve to have those help us help ourselves, um, to change some of these negative consequences, particularly we find our black men and women in today's, particularly our children, who's our future. We have to protect them, and in order to protect them, we have to get our mind right. We have to change our mindset so we become positive parents and a good influence on them, so that they may reach their highest potential and become something better than we are. And that's the goal. We're not here to blame anybody. Um, we're not here to politically. We don't want to get into it, but if it affects our change, we'll get into it. We have to get in the mud to affect change. We will do it. We would do it, because that's how important it is. We ain't gonna sit back and allow our families to be destroyed by ourselves or by others, particularly by ourselves, because we do have a legacy and we're here to bring it to you. So, welcome to the program. If you have any questions, we do have a inquiry where you can send us a message. And if you're interested in bringing a program in your city, you can contact us, and we have some potential pilot program stuff, opportunities and stuff like that. But if you give us a call, we can discuss what needs are and do an assessment. And also, please sign up for our newsletter so you can keep track of what's going on. And in 2019, we're going to be online doing classes for fathers, training, the basic training stuff, as well as training our trainers. So, thank you for joining me for this introduction, and you're welcome to ask any question. Thank you. Have a great day.